to 15 minutes. It keeps it
Oh, okay.
good for the
So 304
channel.
was already invented, but Elon changed and tweaked some things and made a 304L, which is the alloy they're using now.
So what's the difference in the alloy? Did they add something or change the variables?
No. Well, we don't know. It's proprietary information.
You'd have to have a chunk of it in the lab.
You would have to ask Elon personally. But they probably added some manganese or some chromium, and we're talking fractions of a percent.
Sure,
But,
alloys don't need much to change.
So they could have put some nickel, chromium,
There's
vanadium.
this subject
a million things they
called
could do.
crystallography.
Yeah.
And it's a partner
Magnesium's
to metallurgy.
flammable, isn't it?
Well, it's like aluminum is too.
Okay,
it's in very thin shavings.
So
It
let me
can be
get into what
I'm going to run inside for 2
crystallography
While
and
y'all talk
metallurgy
about crystallography.
are.
I want to talk about metallurgy when I come back.
Okay.
I'll be back in 1 minute.
1 minute.
Crystallography and metallurgy are key components in understanding how we use metal.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Crystallography, there's one kind of fun thing that you can do to get something of an idea of crystallography as a layman by getting a flat bottom container like a sheet pan or a cardboard box and putting a bunch of marbles in it.
Okay.
Right? Not quite enough to cover the whole bottom, maybe even only 2/3. And you kind of jiggle them around and let them roll into one corner and stuff, but so that they're all in one layer. And they form patterns. If you get them to fit all perfectly together and they're all the same size, right, you'll see a maximum density.
Okay.
But a lot of times what'll happen is you'll get 2 patches or 3 patches of that maximum density, and you'll have a fault line between them where they don't quite line up perfectly, right? Or some pattern thereof.
Yeah.
And imagine that you have a elemental supply of a metal, right? Elemental gold or elemental copper or whatever. The shape of the atoms defines how they stack together. And the contaminants in them are what you would call an alloy. You add a little something to the mix. It's like throwing a bunch of smaller BBs in with your marbles and see how that changes the pattern.
Yeah.
All right? Now you might pour them in separately and not shake them around. And that's kind of what you would get if you add the alloys together, but you don't thoroughly mix them and you don't heat them a lot, and you don't mash on them and you don't do these things, right? That is related, kind of an allegory, to crystallography. Okay? Your alloys make crystals. Those are the maximum density, right? Ideal formulations. When you take salt, when you pour it in boiling water until it won't dissolve anymore, you've maximized the amount of salt that the hot water can take, right? Then you let it cool, you leave a little string in there, you'll get little cubes, right? Those are the crystals. Now imagine if you cut those crystals real smoothly on one plane, like you cut them in half real efficiently, and you could maybe stain it so you could see the patterns of the cubes, right? That would be your crystallography. You can take a piece of metal and very smoothly cut it and put it under a microscope, maybe with some dye so you get to see the edges, and you'll see what pattern of crystals you see in the metal. You ever seen something that's galvanized and it has little crystals in it?
No.
Like sheet metal for ducting in an air conditioning system has crystals sometimes in the metal.
I've never really paid attention to that.
A lot of people don't. Shaitan at Bejan. Alhamdulillah.
Sorry, the girlfriend's texting herself. Gotta answer that. Every once in a while.
You should prioritize that
I do prioritize.
over your partner, over your enthusiasms. Yep.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have a girlfriend. You should have a wife by now.
Well, I did. Well, I was going to, and I messed that up. So.
In our society, that is a significant challenge these days.
I messed things up with the love of my life. I'm not trying to mess it up with this one right here. So.
Yeah.
Things happen. You get over it. Tell me about you.
I'm a bipedal humanoid on Earth. Is that general enough?
Well, so what do you do? Like, I've seen you walk around here a little bit. I mean, I don't know what you do, so. Tell me about your life.
I don't know anybody with a life like mine.
What's your passion?
My passion?
Yeah, what's your passion?
My future wife and children.
That's cool.
And their children, and their children, and their children, and their children for 1,000 generations. That's my passion.
That's cool.
Everything I'm interested in can be cornered into and defined by that.
That's cool. That's fantastic, man.
I keep them at 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah?
Well, up until recently, I could only upload 15-minute videos at a time. And I find that 15 minutes is long enough that you can do a lot,
Yeah.
and short enough that you won't lose your audience.
Okay.
So I like that 15 minutes. Shorter than that is you can do a simple thing, but you can't do anything all that much.
You got to captivate the audience, man. That's the big
Audience
thing.
attention is an interesting subject.
Is it?
Yeah.
There's always an audience.
You know what?
Depends on who it is or where it's at.
Just capturing the attention of an audience is not that hard if you have the resources and the exposure and those things taken care of, right? That's just an assumption off the top,
Yeah.
which I don't have, but that's fine. I'm not worried about that. You look at 1970s sitcoms,
Yeah.
right? You remember the one about the guy in the apartment and he pretended to be gay so the landlord wouldn't kick him out because his other two roommates were girls?
Nope, I did not remember that. Oh,
Three's Company.
Three's Company, yeah.
Right? Okay.
John.
The main thing about that show was they never finalized any romantic anything. They hinted constantly, and that was.
about movies. I'm gonna be lost.
Three's Company, bro.
I don't.
You
even
never watched
know
Three's
that.
Company. He's a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
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 Never
My dad
heard
was a
that.
computer guy. I
So,
sit at the house all the time with the TV.
If you're a
on my
SpaceX motorcycle
I
guy,
don't watch TV and I don't.
have
watch
you thought
movies.
about what it would take to put a motorcycle on Mars?
computer. That sounds like a fun project right there.
No, I'm not going to Mars.
No, building something like that. That sounds fun.
What?
It'd have to be electric or hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Well, you gotta have the gravity too. It's just-
So that's why
you gotta have
Elon.
you gotta have
You'd have to
So you
you have to
redesign.
have a certain material, bro.
No, the material's not an issue. It would be the balance.
You have to
So
have
what kind of camera is that?
This is a they bought
It's
the
not a Mobus, is it?
it's a Pix Pro.
It's Kodak,
That's a
right?
Kodak. What?
It's not actually a Kodak.
Kodak.
They bought the license. Pix Pro bought the Kodak license so that they could put Kodak on it. Kodak never did anything digital. Kodak doesn't exist really anymore.
Kodak and Xerox are the two dumbest corporations in the world.
What about Lexmark?
Not really.
Don't talk shit about like my best friend's engineer.
I know.
No, Kodak
I
and
gotta go with that.
Kodak said, well, they told their investors, hey, there's these things coming out called digital cameras, and they're going to revolutionize photography. And Kodak's like, well, no, we got to sell the film cameras because we make all our money from the film. And they're like, no, Kodak, listen, your film is about to be obsolete. You need to make a point and shoot DSLR. You need to go through the steps and make a digital camera. And the execs were like, no, we make our money from selling film. Well, guess what happened?
And your premise that
Guess what
Kodak.
happened?
Give me. We already know that part. But
They did make one of the best point and shoot camera. I think right when the digital age, they had like a 2.4 megapixel point and shoot that was supposed to be like badass. But after that, they did nothing.
well, I'm going to disagree with you, and there's more to tell than you'll have patience with. On why I think that your premise that Kodak and Xerox,
Well, Xerox wanted to make photocopies and send faxes.
and actually they're still making photocopies. I
They
did
are?
over 1 million impressions on a Docutech 135
I
just
know,
a few
but
years
they used
ago.
to have 10 billion a day instead of 1 million. Because how many more?
But then I have something to say on the subject that's more than you're going to have patience with.